We've just turned onto Indian Ocean Drive at the Lancelin turnoff, and now we head all the way to Perth on this road in a southerly direction. I'm recording this on the 3rd of October 2020 at 7:43 a.m. This section of the journey should take us about 1 hour, and we will go through some interesting weather because I think there's a storm coming our way. We'll go past, on our right, the seaside towns of Ledge Point, Seabird and Guilderton on the way. I've zeroed the trip meter and I'll be able to flash up at varying points where we are at the 10, 20, 30, 40 kilometre mark. I'll be interested to know exactly how many kilometres it is to the turn-off to the freeway. This video will take us to the northern end of the Mitchell Freeway, and then once you get there you can just simply sit on that at 100 kilometres an hour and you will end up in Perth in about 24 minutes. So all up, it's less than an hour and a half from Lancelin back to the centre of Perth. The speed now goes from 90 to 100 kilometres an hour. This section used to be at 110 kilometres an hour, but due to some accidents, the government wound it back to 100. Now, I hope we don't get rain all the way there. Coming up is a turn off to Ledge Point. Now, Ledge Point is a smaller town than Lancelin. It is the start of the Lancelin Ocean Classic, which is a marathon windsurfing and kite surfing event that is run in the middle of January each year. There's also a bowls club in Ledge Point, along with a beautiful golf course, an impressive caravan park. It has a nice beach, and the turn off is on our right just there. There is a nice cafe, no restaurant as such. Oh well, if you discount the community club, the sports club, which of course does have meals but is not open every night of the week. But a nice little town. It's home to a number of crayfishing boats, lobster boats that fish out of there all year round, and you can drive onto the beach if you wish. There's also a dirt track that heads from Lancelin to Ledge Point, but it's not very wide, so you end up getting your car scratched on the way. There are various overtaking lanes on this section of the road, and they've only been introduced in the last few years after these fatal accidents. You can also see in the middle of the road the double line. This is roughly a 1 metre wide no man's land, and at the moment, because it's solid on my side and the other side, you can't overtake, but now because it's gone to dotted at this point, it is permissible for me to overtake but not the other side, and now it's permissible for both sides to overtake, and the rain thankfully has almost stopped. On the left here is Bennies Road. If you're a photographer, go up there and have a look. It's a section of dirt road at probably about 2 kilometres up, where you can shoot at a couple of times a year the sun coming up down the middle of the road, and even the moon coming up down the middle of the road. And of course it has that lovely arch of trees across the top, which makes it particularly pretty in terms of a photographic opportunity. That's Bennies Road. With the rain having stopped, it's quite a beautiful morning, and on both sides of the road at this section are farmlands where farmers typically run cattle, cows, sheep. I've sometimes seen a llama in there. On the local wildlife front, in the morning you will see kangaroos in these paddocks on the right, all the way up for about probably another 10 kilometres, I'm guessing. We've been going 11.3 kilometres at this point, and there are signs on the left-hand side of the road showing us how far we are from Wanneroo, WN. At dawn and dusk, particularly on the right, you'll see lots of kangaroos. And the funny thing with kangaroos is that if you drive past them at 100 kilometres an hour, they don't take an ounce of interest in you. However, if you stop your car, they will all look at you and take off back into the bush. I should say I've driven this road numerous times, and over the last couple of weeks I've tried to do this recording on 2 occasions and have had technical dramas. So today I've switched to an iPhone mounted on the window, and it's working a treat. At the moment we are 80 kilometres from Wanneroo as we pass that rest stop on the left. While heading down south from Perth has always been a popular activity for Perth people and tourists, certainly the numbers heading north along the Turquoise Coast and even further up past Geraldton and up to the northwest has really ramped up, particularly since COVID, which has brought about a lot more intrastate travel for primarily Perth people, because that's where the population is. Have to overtake this car because we're getting spray from them, which is causing the windscreen wipers to come on and ruin your view, then there's another guy in front. Just up here on the right is the turnoff to Breton Bay, which is a section of our coast that houses a number of shacks, and there's shacks all the way up our coastline here. Now these shacks I think are private, but the turnoff is just to our right here. You need a four-wheel drive to get there. This time of year sees the paddocks very green. If you were to come back in February, these paddocks would be yellow and there'd be no green to see. And yet animals still feast on that feed. Some emus just back there on the right. I'm not sure whether you would have seen them. They were quite small in shot, but you will see a lot of emus in the paddocks. Not as many as the kangaroos. Just beware of them when they get roadside, because they are clueless animals. Can do a lot of damage to your vehicle and have no road sense whatsoever. So occasionally you'll see a dead one on the side of the road, but more often you'll see dead kangaroos. Not so much on this section of the Indian Ocean Drive, but certainly on the section north of Lancelin up to Green Head, on that section of the Turquoise Coast. They are prolific. So here's our opportunity to overtake this vehicle with the third of the overtaking lanes since Lancelin. We are 70 kilometres from Wanneroo now, and some 21 from Lancelin, I think. No, I can tell you exactly because I've set the odometer. It's 23.4. This road would be typically very busy with coaches taking overseas tourists on tours to and from Lancelin, the Pinnacles and Cervantes. However, with COVID, and we're filming this during COVID, that market has completely dried up. But on the right is the turn off to Seabird. Seabird is a small town on the ocean. It has a quite lovely caravan park, along with a tavern that sits on top of the crest of the beach and looks down, probably a 25-metre drop down to the ocean. And there's a lovely outlook. There's a small lookout just next to it as well. Well, really just a covered area to sit and take in the view. And there's a small store, but apart from that, there's not much to Seabird. And they've had some coastal erosion problems, which unfortunately caused a road to wash into the ocean, and some houses nearly subsided, but the government finally stepped in to put some measures in place to stop further erosion. Not full time, but it'll last some years until they work out what they're going to do. Lancelin also has a little bit of a problem with erosion, but we don't have quite a cliff that they do in Seabird in Lancelin. But certainly the Grace Darling Park has been eaten away over the last number of years. Quite beautiful now out in these paddocks to the right with this lovely early morning light and green fields. Such a stark contrast to February. And those lovely low trees where there's a browse line, which is an area or a height at which the trees have been eaten by animals. On the left is Redfield Park, a semi-rural estate, large blocks. There's no commercial activity in there in terms of shops or anything like that, but it is a residential area for those who want relatively inexpensive land and a private lifestyle. Up ahead of us is the turnoff to Guilderton. Guilderton is the first seaside town on the Turquoise Coast. It is so picturesque. You must go and see it if you are driving past. It's only about, I'm guessing, 9k's, 8k's into there. But it has a lovely golf course, a bowls club, tennis courts. But perhaps its best known, or without a doubt its best known feature is the Moore River, which empties into the Indian Ocean. Now, normally there's a sandbar that blocks the water heading out to sea. And certainly the chances of you rolling up and seeing that sandbar are pretty much odds on, except on a number of occasions a year when the water levels in the river are so high that they break out into the Indian Ocean, and the water starts off as a trickle and ends up as a flowing, gushing 40 to 50 metre wide expanse of water. And a couple of times I've been down there and photographed it, and it's spectacular to watch, and it's well worth the investment of a number of hours just watching it develop. If you're a good surfer, you might want to try surfing the standing wave, but be very careful if you're not a strong swimmer, because it's very easy to get sucked out to sea, and you will get sucked out probably 100 to 200 metres. So this is the turn off on the right to Guilderton. The Moore River Roadhouse is there, where you can get fuel. You can rent a kayak. There is sometimes a small river boat that goes up and down, and I would recommend anybody pops in and have a look. And you can go up to the top to the lookout too, where you can see over the river and you can see out to sea. On the left here is the only fixed speed camera on this road as at October 3, 2020. Be very wary of it. It will cost you money if you're not doing the regulated speed limit. And straight after that is the turn off to Sovereign Hill, another semi-rural estate. Going back to the Moore River at Guilderton, there is a pontoon in the middle during summer of the river, and it's quite lovely to swim out to that. There's also a pontoon in Lancelin, just off the coast, off Harold Park. But the Moore River flows quite a way, and just up ahead of us here is a small bridge across the Moore River. But if you turn left, there's a little camping area. There are some facilities there, and here is the Moore River. At this point it's only 10 metres wide, maybe 15 to 20 if it's really gushing. So we've now technically ceased driving in the Turquoise Coast region, but there are still a number of things to chat about on the way back to the entrance to the freeway at Hester Avenue. At this stage we're 36 kilometres from Lancelin on what has turned out to be a quite magnificent morning. And I do thank you for watching this video. I also thank you for supporting lancelin.com.au, where you can book sandboarding and quad bikes. You can book a lunch at the Lobster Shack in Cervantes and keep up to date with what's going on in Lancelin. Also the Turquoise Coast Instagram page and turquoisecoast.com.au website, where you'll find information about all of the towns along the Turquoise Coast. At the top of this hill is the left turn to Ginginbrook Road, and normally there is a coffee van just around the corner. I don't drink coffee, but people tell me they make a great coffee. So if you're looking for a coffee at this point, heading north or south, you turn into Ginginbrook Road right here and grab yourself one. That road takes you to Gingin, which is a, well, I was going to say plain, but yeah, let's say plain. A plain little town inland with a nice park and also a railway line that runs through it. Next on our right is the town of Woodridge. Small semi-rural town, but there is a coffee shop, a cafe just probably 300 metres after you turn right here. And on the left, if you like strawberries, nip in there and pick your own. It's great value and you won't get fresher produce. Also on our left is the Sun City Caravan. The Sun City Carrot, the Sun City Carrot Farm. Their produce gets sent all around Australia and overseas. And here is the turn off to our right to Woodridge on King Drive. They have a St John's ambulance sub-centre there. Some tennis courts. And not a great deal more. 50 kilometres from Wanneroo, 43 kilometres from Lancelin. Just up on our right is the Wilbinga Grove turnoff. Wilbinga is very popular with four-wheel drivers. There's also a rest stop just here, but often you'll see convoys of four-wheel drives heading towards the coast, which is to our right. Most of this section of the road, we do have the rumble strips in the middle and on the edge of the road, which is a relatively new addition, but an excellent safety measure, in so much as if you drift off in the past, you'd have no idea until you brought your eyes back up onto the road, considering you were probably not paying attention. But now you get this audible warning when you get off, and I'll give you a little example here. And you also get a vibration through the car. So they are a welcome addition to the Indian Ocean Drive. 40 kilometres from Wanneroo and 53 from Lancelin. This is the turn-off to our left to the, it's called Mitchell Road, but if you turn left out here, you'll get to the Gravity Discovery Centre. And it's well worth a look. It's this big tower where you go up, and it's a slanting tower, so when you drop stuff off it, which falls straight down, you get to experience the different effects gravity has on different items. So it's well worth a visit. Just up on our left is another rest stop, and this is where during COVID the state government set up a stop point where Perth people weren't allowed to travel anywhere north, and people from the north weren't allowed to go to Perth unless they had a specific reason. And that was one of many measures implemented that saw Western Australia's rates of incidence of COVID very low. We were very fortunate, unlike Melbourne, which of course had savage incidences of COVID and had to go into a second lockdown. On the right is the turn off to Two Rocks, and if there's ever an incident on the Indian Ocean Drive south of this, often you will have to turn right here at Breakwater Drive to detour around an incident. Long section of road here denotes the end of the 100 kilometre an hour zone at the end of the long straight, and locals will often talk, did it happen in the 90 section or the 100 section, and that's what they mean by that. So we've done probably 3/4 of our trip once we get to the 90 zone here, and a quarter to go at a slower speed. There are a few sections of our Indian Ocean Drive from Perth to Lancelin where there are double lanes on both sides. This is one of, I think, 3. Although if you're watching this whole video and have been keeping count, you'll know exactly. So there's the 90 zone. We're 3/4 of the way to our intended target. And on our left and right is the Yanchep National Park. No dogs are allowed in any national park. And as you can see, the countryside has changed a little. It's become just dense scrub. And in a moment we'll have the turnoff to Yanchep. Here's our marker on the left for 30 kilometres to Wanneroo, 63.6 from the Lancelin turnoff. On our left up here, about 100 metres in from the road, are a couple of old concrete bunkers that I've actually gone and had a look at, and they're graffitied in there and make interesting backdrops. You can see them from about 300 metres back on our left as you look across, but I always have trouble finding out how I got in there. There's a track somewhere, there's a turn off here somewhere, which is four-wheel drive only, and perhaps it has been blocked. Here the speed changes from 90 to 70 for the turn off to Yanchep. Yanchep is, well, it was a small country-ish town many years ago, but really today it's just a metropolitan city, I guess, at the northern end. It used to be the home to Atlantis theme park, which has dolphins and other marine activity, but today that is no longer. There's a nice tourist drive if you want to detour off the Indian Ocean Drive down at Yanchep Beach Road. And as we head back into the 90 zone here, it's quite the most marvellous stretch of road with beautiful old trees left and right, which reminds me a little bit of some of the Tasmanian roads that I've driven on. There's a particularly magnificent section just ahead here, which I always think would be great for a car commercial. And this is the section I talk about here, where you have this lovely canopy of branches across the road, providing dappled light, and even a nice crest just ahead of us. Just past the 20 kilometres to Wanneroo sign there, and on our left is a paintball skirmish park that used to be Bullen's Lion Park going back many years ago. Western Australians will remember that, particularly those who lived in Perth. It was a major tourist attraction. When I originally decided to do these videos, I thought it might be helpful for tourists doing the drive to actually play this video while they're doing the drive so that they knew what was on the left. For instance, here you can get garlic and avocados if you turn left when they're in season, or the fact that this is Healy's fuel station, which I am going to stop at because I'm hungry and I need a drink, and this is the only fuel station between Lancelin and Perth on the Indian Ocean Drive. Of course, you can turn off the road and go into one of the towns, but this is Healy's store and Celtic service station. One toasted sandwich and a cherry ripe later, we head back out onto Indian Ocean Drive for the final sector of this particular video. I can recommend the toasted sandwiches back there. They are excellent. On the left is a Thirsty Camel bottle shop and tavern. If you are in need of a drink, you will find pretty much everything you need there. And this is the turn-off to the Mitchell Freeway. This is Hester Avenue. In a few years' time, this won't be the turn-off to the Mitchell Freeway. It'll be a little bit further back, with sections of freeway being added on every few years, extending the reach of that road and making and cutting a few minutes off the trip north. So you've just done roughly an hour drive from Lancelin to the northern end of the freeway. You've seen the last three towns, well, I should say the first three towns if you're heading north on the Turquoise Coast. And we've enjoyed quite a nice drive today with some lovely weather, except for the rain at the start. And our turn off to the freeway is just here. And this, my friends, concludes this video. Thank you.